Today we'll be reading Finance at Freddy's. Or sorry, it's Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear Frights Step Closer, and we'll be reading the first story. All right, the way this book is set up is it's um it's three short stories. We'll be reading the first story, A Step Closer, or sorry, Step Closer. This is the fourth book in the franchise, but the good thing about the books, since they're all just short stories, and they all have some of a common theme. Since they're all short stories, you don't have to read them in any particular order, so you're not missing anything. Um, so yeah, this will be Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear Frights Step Closer. It's about 76 pages. I'm going to try my best. If you don't know me, I failed English 2 3 times. So reading is not my strongest subject, but I'll try my best to keep the reading consistent and keep it clear for you guys. There will be times where I'll mute my mic. I'm not sure if we're going to take a short break between reading any of the pages. But if you're here to listen, I'd appreciate it. And other than that, let's get the Saturday stream going on. This is Saturday stream 4.5 remix. It's to play on Kingdom Hearts. Just give me a second. Let me just make sure everything's all right, like the audio and all that jazz. And again, there aren't other people in the home, so if I mute my mic, it's to make sure you guys can hear me clearly and I'm not reading over someone. All right. Alright, the audio seems like it's perfect. So we're going to be reading Fazbear Frights 4 Step Closer from Scott Cawthon. First book, Step Closer. Foxy's yellow eyes glowed in the darkness of the room. His jaw hung open, flashing sharp teeth. Foxy lifted the hook and slashed its sharp tip in the front of Pete's face. The hook whizzing by his nose. Pete rolled off the bed, his body shaking. His stomach pitched as he lay helpless on the floor, and Foxy pivoted, looming over him. The shifting of gears filled the room as Foxy sprung up with his hook. "You can be a pirate, but first you'll have to lose an eye and an arm." "No!" Pete breathed. When Foxy slammed his hook down into Pete's eye, an audible pop sounded. Blood poured from the eye socket as Pete screamed. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was crowded with crazy little kids and their harassed idiot parents. Music bellowed through the wall speakers, and arcade games pinged and vibrated. The scent of burnt pepperoni wafted through the air. I wonder if that could be heard. My mic is actually pretty good. Let's see if that car horn was heard. But anyways, mixed with the scent of cotton candy, Pete was slouched against the wall, ankles crossed and ball cup turned backwards, drinking a cherry-flavored cola while chewing watermelon gum. His little brother and his friends were crowded around the arcade game. Pete didn't want to be there, but his mother had to work, and Chuck had to be with his friends after school again, so that left Pete to play babysitter. For the 100th time, he asked himself, why was it always his job? And was the little snot grateful? Nope. Chuck was always whining about his inhaler. Always whining he was hungry. Always asking a bunch of questions. Always something. Since their dad had left, Pete was saddled with everything Chuck. His mom's words were stuck in his head. You're the man of the house now, Pete. Take care of your little brother. How was Pete supposed to be a man when he was just 16? Did anyone ask him what he thought of his new responsibilities? Double nope. Pete watched a little kid walk up to a couple of employees, cleaning up birthday tables. He pulled on a guy's sleeve. The man looked down and the kid smiled. Can I help you with something? He asked. I was wondering where is Foxy the pirate, the kid said. The man's voice was syrup sweet. Oh, Foxy's on a vacation at the moment. We hope to have him back soon. The little kid stuck his lip out but nodded as he walked away. The other employees chuckled. Good one, he told the man. Yeah, on vacation in the maintenance room. Don't know when they'll bring the show out again. Pete was thinking that over when he realized someone was saying his name. Pete! He pulled his attention from the conversation and moved his gaze toward Maria Rodriguez, who was standing beside him. Her black hair brushed her shoulders and her lips were glossy red. She had these bright green eyes with long lashes and a few freckles on her nose. She was a cheerleader at high school. He'd known her since the 6th grade. So why did he suddenly feel so nervous around her? Hey Maria, he said. Stuck here with little Chucky, huh? Pete scowled. Yeah. Same here. My little sister's birthday, Maria motioned to a birthday table in the front of the stage, with little kids wearing cone hats and eating cake. Can't believe we used to be like them. He smirked. Don't know about you, but I never was like that. Maria smiled. Sure. So where you been? Haven't seen you practice lately. He'd been benched from football for unnecessary roughness and having a bad attitude on multiple occasions. Hello, this is football. So he just quit altogether. The truth was, Pete never used to quit anything. He used to finish whatever he started. But after seeing his parents quit each other, finishing things didn't matter so much anymore. Plus, he didn't need any more grief from the coach. He got enough of that from his teachers and his mom. A kid could only handle so much griping. He shrugged. Got tired of it all, you know. Yeah, I guess so. What are you going to do with all that your free time now? Well, someone waved to Maria from the party table, and her face lit up. Yes, finally time to leave. Before she left, she added, Hey, a bunch of us are meeting under Old Beacon Bridge if you want to come hang out later. Pete smiled. Yeah. She nodded. It'll be fun. Then he shook his head. Can't. I have to watch Chuck the Chump. Oh, okay. Maybe next time. See you around school? Irritation washed over Pete as he watched Maria walk away. This was all Chuck's fault. Little brat. Everything was always about his little brother. Didn't matter what Pete wanted, because nothing mattered when it came to Pete. Dad had left. Mom was in her own little world. They figured they'd just put Pete in charge of Chuck because they didn't have time to deal with him themselves. But Pete had never signed up to take over responsibilities. He was a kid, and kids should be free, not worrying about stuff. They should be able to do what they wanted, like hanging out with other kids instead of watching little brothers. But his parents, they didn't care about any of that, obviously. After all, they never asked Pete if he wanted them to split up in the first place. They just divorced. And that's that. None of it was fair. Pete had so many emotions inside of him that sometimes he just didn't know what to do with them. Sometimes he felt like a ticking time bomb about to explode. Like the tension of his body was just under his skin, begging for release. For a while, football had helped. He'd been a beast on the field, taking down players, throwing people out of the way, but by the end of practice, he'd been exhausted and empty. Empty was better, it was good. But since he was off the team, Pete was stuck without an outlet. He hated these feelings. He hated everything sometimes. He watched his brother break off from his friends to head to the bathroom, and his eyes narrowed on the fresh opportunity. Pete tossed his soda at the empty table and walked quickly to his brother's side, latching on his arm forcefully. Chuck's face screwed up. "Ow, Pete!" "Shut up and walk," he muttered, then blew a bubble till it popped. "Why, where are we going?" "You'll see." With a quick look over his shoulder, Pete hustled his little brother down a long, darkened corridor. The floor was faded and old, and peeling posters of animatronics lined the wall. The place needed a serious upgrade. Pete had wandered down here before and discovered the large maintenance room. Now that he knew what was taking a vacation inside, he couldn't wait to take Chuck along for a little adventure. Considering his little brother had always been scared of certain animatronics, Chuck started to protest. "Where are we going?" "What's the matter? You scared?" "No, I just want to stay with my friends." "We're going to check something out." Chuck hiccuped and licked his dry lips around his braces. He sounded like a toad when he was nervous. "Just leave me alone or I'm telling Mom." "You're such a little snitch." "Now you're really going in." Pete dragged his surprisingly strong little brother through the entrance of the maintenance room to meet Foxy the pirate. The heavy door slammed behind them, engulfing them with darkness. "Pete, let me go." "Quiet. Someone might hear us. And I don't want to listen to you whining like a little baby." "Do you know how annoying that is?" Pete wouldn't let loose of the vice grip he had on his brother. "No." It was time to teach Chuck a lesson. It was time for Pete to do what he wanted, and right now, that meant giving his little brother a good scare. Little Chuck the chump might even pee his pants. Pete chuckled at the idea. With one hand still firmly on his brother's arm, he fished his phone out of his pocket and turned on the light to guide them slowly through the darkness. The area was strangely quiet, as if it wasn't connected to a boatload of people just down the hallway. The smell here was stagnant and musty. The air seemed lifeless, as if no one had set foot in this place recently, which was weird when the rest of the building was full of activity. Hiccup. I'm not doing the sound. Pete's foot knocked a bottle across the floor. It hit something and shattered. Pete and Chuck froze, wondering if someone would hear, but no one seemed to be around. Insert hiccup sound. Pete scanned the floor with a light, revealing scuffed black and white checkered tiles. Dusty tables and a few broken chairs were scattered around about the large room. There were cardboard boxes on the tables, half empty, with party hats and plates scattered around them. His light flashed on a big black spider sitting on the edge of the box. "Oh, look at the sucker, it's huge," Pete said. The spider jumped away and the boys leaped back. "I hate spiders. Let's get out of here," Chuck whined again. "Not yet. There's so much more to explore. Think of it like one of those adventure games you like to play." "We have to find the secret treasure," Pete said, laughing under his breath, more like he had to scare the crap out of his little brother more. He flashed the light back down to the floor. He stopped on what looked like a dark metal, melted candles and strange black markings. "What is this? Are those symbols?" Chuck wanted to know. "Who cares?" Pete continued to wave the light around. Then he saw a small stage with a closed purple curtain, and a grin split his mouth. Pinned to the curtain, there was a crooked sign with the words "Out of service." "Score! Hopefully it still works." Hiccup. "Pete, we shouldn't be here. We can get in trouble. Like big trouble, like trespassing, you know? That's against the law." "That's against the law," Pete mimicked him in a tiny voice. "You're such a nerd. You know that? What are you going to be when you grow up, Chuck? A cop? I'll be sure to buy you some donuts on the way home." Pete shined the light next to the stage, revealing a rusted control box on the side table. The cover was broken off the box. "This is going to be good." He dragged his brother to the foot of the stage. "Enjoy the show, little brother." "Stop, Pete!" He grabbed Chuck by the shirt and pants, giving him a good wedgie as he launched him onto the little stage. Chuck crashed onto the platform with an "ugh," and Pete rushed to the control box. He slammed his palm on the button that said "Start." Again and again. A low hum sounded, followed by a muffled click and clank. "Aw, come on," Pete yelled when nothing happened. Finally, the small curtain began to open. A series of 3 hiccups. In a quick motion, Chuck rolled to the side. "Chuck, you wimp!" Pete rushed onto the stage, grabbing Chuck by the sneakers to keep him there. In the quick moves only fear can bring on, Chuck managed to evade his brother. He climbed onto his feet, jumped off the platform, and ran. That was the fastest Pete had ever seen his brother run. If he hadn't been running from Pete, he might have been impressed. Pete moved to get him back, then came to a halt in the front of the stage as his shirt caught onto something. "Dang," he muttered, tugging on his shirt. But it was caught on a stupid nail. Choppy music sounded through the air on the curtains opened fully. Pete stood frozen in the front of a fractured Foxy animatronic that was glaring down at him. The yellow eyes glowed under red brows, and the eye pitch flipped up over his right eye. A jaw with sharp, pointy teeth hung loosely as the big fox began to sing disjointed songs about becoming a pirate. One arm had a hook for a hand, and the other was strapped with fur, showing a robotic skeleton's strange sounds of whirling gears screeched and seemed to echo in the quiet room. The robot's chest appeared ripped open, exposing more of a mechanical body. Foxy moved slowly, eerily. Even though Pete knew he was a robot, his deteriorated body looked like a half-eaten away by who knew what. A shivering skittered down Pete's spine. He swallowed his gum. He couldn't move. He couldn't move his gaze away from Foxy's yellow eyes as he sung. Didn't know why. Just a dumb old robot. I think it's a little bit of a song. Is this a song? Yeah, I think it's a song. "You can be a pirate, but you'll have to lose an eye." Okay, no, I'm just gonna say it in a Foxy voice. "You can be a pirate, but you'll have to lose an arm and an eye. Yarg. First you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg. First you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg. First you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg." The old animatronic was stuck on the same lyric. "First you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg." Pete blinked at a strange feeling came over. What? Pete blinked as a strange feeling came over him, like an invisible, cold, heavy blanket was covering every inch of his body, then sinking through his skin into his bones. "First you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg." The room grew still with a sudden silence, yet Pete remained standing there in the darkness, unmoving. He blinked and looked around, trying to remember where he was. He was in the dark, alone, trying to remember where he was. He was in the dark, alone. His pulse scrambled as he stepped back. Then he saw his shirt was caught in a nail. It all came back to him. He rubbed at his eye, yanked his shirt from the nail, and stormed away from the stage to find his brother. "Dang it, Chuck!" Pete watched Chuck suck in a puff of his inhaler before he sat down at the dinner table. He could tell his little brother's nerves were still shot from when Pete took him to Foxy's the pirate. Let me take a little second. Alright. Chuck eyed Pete across the table and squirmed. Pete didn't know what he was so upset about. The little brat didn't even get to see the best part of the show. He'd run away and stuck closely to his friends until it was time to go home. "How was Freddy Fazbear's Pizza's boy?" Wait, that's Mom. "How was Freddy Fazbear's Pizza's boys?" Their mom asked as she set plates of ham and potatoes in front of them. "Fine," Chuck said, without looking up from his plate. "Yeah, just dandy," Pete muttered, swallowing mashed potatoes. "What, did something happen?" No, nothing, the brothers said together. Pete gave Chuck a warning. "Look, better not tell." Mom raised her eyebrows as she sat down. "Okay, well, I have something exciting to share with you both. I thought it was time for us to do something as a family, and something that was good for the world." Pete bit back. Words that would likely hurt his mom's feeling. What family? It had been nearly 6 months since Dad had left and broken up their family, and when he had become a do-gooder, something new, something that represents a fresh start for the 3 of us as a family unit. Something that could give someone else a fresh start too. She pulled out a paper from a folder and turned it toward them. Pete read the bold letters in disbelief. Organ donors. Mom nodded in excitement. Yes, we'll be a family donor. Doesn't that sound great? Nigga, huh? Will my organs stay in my body? You tripping. Anyways, Chuck's gaze met Pete's astonishment. This is exciting news? You really want us to give up our body parts? Pete asked her. She waved her hand at Pete. Only if something happens to us, silly. Which obviously we don't want, but if it did, we could actually help other people who are sick and if in need of a heart or a kidney. You could save someone's life. We'd be heroes. We'd be dead heroes, Chuck said. She laughed. Oh, Chuckles. You make me laugh. Yeah, Chuckles, you're right, Pete said. Deadpan. Chuck scrunched up his face. Hey, Mom, you know what Pete did at the pizza place? Pete narrowed his eyes at Chuck. He knew the little brat couldn't keep his mouth shut. What did he do? He drank way too much soda. Chuck smiled, flashing his railroad tracks. Mom sighed. Pete, come on. I told you what all that soda does to your teeth. Pete just looked back at his mom. What was with her lately? Last month she started to see someone who called herself a life coach. Then his mom had started yoga, chopped her long hair off, and gone on some weird juice cleanse. She also gathered a bunch of her stuff and given it away to charity. Now she wanted to donate their body parts. Here, read the flyer, Pete, Mom said. It'll convince you for sure. Pete grabbed the paper. His mom shoved in. Hello, phone that went dead. I'm gonna finish this paragraph and I'll get to plug my phone up. Pete grabbed the paper his mom shoved under his nose. The list of organ donations were pretty long. Bones, heart, kidney, liver, pancreas, skin, intestines, eyeballs. The thought ran into his head. You can be a pirate, but you'll have to lose an eye and an arm. Yarg. Pete flashed back to Foxy. He imagined Foxy suddenly walking off the stage, stalking toward him with his big sharp hook, his mechanical feet scraping across the floor. Pete mashed potatoes did a slow roll in his stomach, and he suddenly felt lightheaded. He blinked the image away. What a dumb idea, Mom. Pete, it's not dumb. And it hurts my feelings that you think that. Yeah, Mom was into expressing her feelings lately, too. He shoved his chair away from the table and stood up as his mom's face flashed cold, then hot. I'm not doing it, Mom. Pete, I don't want to talk about it. I'm going to bed. Pete walked out of the dining room. What happened? He heard his mom ask. Chuck sighed. Puberty. Hurry up, Pete. The next morning, Chuck banged on the bathroom door. If Pete didn't get out soon, Chuck would be late for the bus to W.H. Jameson Middle School. If he missed the bus, then he'd have to ride his bike 5 miles to school, and his mom would freak out over his Okay. His mom would freak out over his going alone. She was paranoid something would happen if Pete wasn't watching him or wasn't with him, which he didn't understand, since he was almost 12, well, 11 and a half. Lots of his friends were left by themselves all the time, but not Chuck. Pete always said it was because Chuck was the baby of their mom and couldn't stop thinking of him that way. He heard Pete heave into the toilet, and Chuck stepped back and cringed. Pete was sick, he figured. Chuck's lip curled a little. That's what he deserved for trying to scare me yesterday. Then he let that thought go of Pete heaving again, stepping back and leaning against the wall to wait. Chuck knew Dad's leaving had changed everyone. Pete was angry all the time. Mom kept searching for new things to make her happy, and as for himself, he just tried to keep busy. He liked to hang out with friends. He liked to play online video games, and he was pretty interested in puzzles. Yeah, middle school sucked, but going to school was just a part of life you had to get through. Every once in a while, he felt challenged by a project. Then he'd complete it and get bored again until something else caught his interest. He got why Pete hated him half the time. Because Mom made Pete watch over him. so much. He tried not to be annoying, but everything that came out of his mouth seemed to annoy Pete. Maybe it's just like with all brothers. Chuck didn't know because he didn't have another brother to compare to. The toilet flushed a minute later. Pete swung open the door. A wave of serious stink wafted out. Chuck and he had waved a hand in front of his nose. Pete didn't look so good. His face was so pale, his freckles stood out like tiny bugs on his cheek. His dark hair stuck up in different directions, like he'd jammed his finger in a socket and shocked himself. And there were dark circles around his eyes. Jeez, Pete, what's the matter with you? Nothing, Pete spat out. Something didn't agree with me. Probably something from the stupid Freddy Fazbear's pizza. Chuck didn't think so. Do you want me to call Mom? Pete shoved him aside. No, I'm not a little baby like you, Chuck the chump. Chuck felt his shoulders stiffen. He hated that stupid nickname. Whatever, he mumbled. He slammed and locked the bathroom door behind him. Pete chugged an energy drink with a triple caffeine while... Pete chugged an energy drink with triple caffeine while running to his bio class, but he still felt drained and exhausted. He'd had some pretty crazy dreams last night. He couldn't remember much, only that there had been all this blood. It was everywhere, pouring all over him, down his face and over his chest and arms. When he jerked awake, his blankets were tangled around his body. He'd fallen to the floor, trying to unwind the blankets just so he could rush to the bathroom to blow chunks. He shivered just thinking about it, but he rolled his shoulders and shoved that not-so-fun memory away. He probably should have stayed home, but calling his mom at work would have freaked her out, and she'd been asking him a million questions. What a click sound from my tongue. He decided just to get through the day somehow. He loped into the classroom 5 minutes away after the bell. Mr. Dinglewood, you're late, drowned Mr. Watson in his bored voice. Note. Pete snatched off his hat and shook his head in a negative. He took an empty stool at the workstation in the far back, next to the kid in the black leather jacket and purple hair. Pete zipped his hat into his pack and sat on the floor, then wiped some sweat off his forehead. He shifted awkwardly onto the stool. Why couldn't he seem to keep still? As I was saying, class, we will still be dissecting a frog today. And Mr. Watson, you'll have to be quizzed on the safety rules for the tools and procedures. You work as a team with your partner to fill the lab sheet. I expect you to be mature, young people. I know that will be hard for some of you, but this is no funny business here, or you will fail. You do not want to fail. You'll have 30 minutes starting now. When they both turned towards the dead frog sprawled out in front of them, leather jacket guy leaned forward. Dude, what's the matter with you? Pete shook his head. Nothing. Leather jacket guy gave him a yeah, right look and picked up a small scalpel, yeah. 10 minutes in, Pete yawned. His mouth was dry and his hand started to shake from the precise cutting. Leather jacket guy smirked. Hey, check it out, he said, and poked the frog in the eye with the scalpel. A weird liquid gushed out. Sick, right? Then he shoved the blade into the frog's arm and sliced it off. He picked up the tiny hand and waved it at Pete. Pete shook his head. I need a break. Look, I'm sorry. I swear I'll stop messing around. He held out the little frog's hand. Here, let's shake on it. The kid chuckled as Pete pushed off the stool and headed for the classroom water fountain. He took a long couple of drinks. Dang, he was thirsty. And he was starving. His stomach decided to growl. Then, since he'd skipped breakfast, trying to make it to school in time, he was heading back to the workstation when Mr. Watson stopped him. Everything going well, Mr. Dinglewood? He asked. Mr. Watson was shorter than him. Then, with white hair and a white mustache, glasses hung on the tip of his red nose, as if somehow he was looking down on Pete, even though he was physically impossible. That was physically impossible. Yep, things are fine, Pete blurted. Mr. Watson frowned. Glad to hear it. Now, please return to the dissection lab. You of all people cannot afford to fail. That's what I'm doing, Pete muttered, rolling around. It all went downhill from there. Pete took a quick long stride, and his foot landed on his pack strapped inside, landing securely on the floor. That was when he slipped, losing his footing. Falling backwards, he felt his toe connect to the with leather jacket guy in a brutal way. The kid yelled, and Mr. Watson shouted something in reply. Pete landed on his back, his breath knocked out of him. He blinked, and when he opened his eye, he spotted the kid with the scalpel in the air. The small knife must have flown up on impact, but then in disbelief, Pete saw the scalpel lose gravity and fall towards his face. The point of the tiny blade came straight for his eye. Adrenaline spurted through his body. With the quick reflexes that came from years of playing football, Pete swatted the tool away with like a deadly insect as the blade was about to blind him. The scalpel hit the stand of the workstation and fell on the floor. "Holy," leather jacket guy hissed. "Dear Lord. Peter, are you alright?" Mr. Watson, hovering over, like a frightened parent. "Don't move. I'll call the nurse." "Class, stay seated. Nobody move. Emergency procedures, please. Out of the way." The class ignored Mr. Watson and crowded around Pete as his chest rose up and down like with heavy breaths. He didn't think he'd hit his head, but he felt dizzy and kind of out of it. Not to mention mortified. Someone whispered, "Way to go, Dingleberry." A couple of kids giggled. "Yeah, what a loser." Now we know why he was kicked off the football team. Pete slowly sat up as his face flushed red. Dang, there was no doubt he should have stayed home. Somehow Pete managed to get through the rest of the school day. The nurse had checked him out and given him an ice pack and sent him on his way. Golly, like every freaking teacher, not every single teacher, every nurse has stalled. "I'm not gonna send you home, but you need an ice pack." Anyways, it was relief when the final bell rung, and he walked quickly around slowly moving kids, through the doors and down the school's front steps. When he checked his phone, he saw he had a new text from from his mother. He rubbed his hand over her face. What now? Couldn't he get through one day without her asking him to do something? Yeah, he loved his mom, but now that she didn't have his dad to help her, Pete was always on call. She better not ask him to take Chuck out again. He wouldn't do it. He'd say, "Nope, sorry, I'm sick." He clicked on the text. "Hi, Pete. After school, could you swing by the butcher and pick up some order of pork chops?" He responded flatly. "Fine." She responded, "Thank you." Heart emoji. Pete popped a wad of watermelon gum into his mouth and set off walking to the butcher shop, which was a couple of blocks away of his way. He wanted to get his license in. That was his plan 6 months ago, before the divorce, but now everyone seemed to have forgotten. Alright, that's it, boys. We on page 21. We got 50 pages to go. Golly, freaking 14 comments, my nigga. Alright, that's it. Some good stretch. Alright, time for the real Saturday stream. That was it. I'm gonna make sure I save my place. That's the end of Saturday stream 2.5 remix. Sorry, 4.5 remix. Now let's get into Saturday stream 5. This has been the end of the stream. I'll catch up boy probably next week with 5.5 remix. We're gonna finish up the first book because I'm ready to play some games. Alright, catch up boy in the